Hi all, hope you're well. Thanks for watching. So many of you know that I came to yoga because I had lower back problems, and I've had lower back pain for most of my adult life. And about 10 years ago, I had a diagnosis of a disc protrusion in my lower back between L3 and L4. So it was helpful to understand why I was experiencing a lot of this pain and discomfort. And the options at the time for managing it were a little bit slim. So my doctor wanted to give me amitriptyline to manage the nerve pain. I really didn't want to be on long-term medication. So I came to yoga to see if that would help. And a lot of people, you know, again, I've repeated this story before, that, yoga really helped manage my lower back pain. Yoga won't fix it. It won't put the disc back and make the problem go away, but it will help manage the frequency of exacerbation and my recovery period. So how often I have a problem and how quickly I recover when I do have a problem. And yoga has done that by helping me build up core strength, become more posturally aware, so how I hold myself. But just on the posture note, you could be somebody that's got back pain or not back pain, is obviously we understand quite common. And I can stand here and I can tell you about how we lengthen the spine up and we drop the chin to lengthen the spine in the neck and do a slight tilt back in the pelvis. And then you can do that in that moment, or you might even struggle to do that because of tightness in the other parts of the body. And then you'll go away and do your day-to-day bits and pieces, and your posture will kind of go back to normal, which is one of the contributing factors to why you've got lower back problems. So one of the things that I like about yoga, especially in the yoga classes that I do, probably other yoga classes too, we're doing a range of different movements within the class which help work on all of those muscles which are shortened, tightened, and are pulling the pelvis out of alignment, which then pulls the spine out of alignment. Also as well, most of us are left-handed or right-handed, and most of us that drive will be using the right foot on the accelerator, and all of that dominance on one side of the body will create tightness all on one side, and it will kind of pull us out of alignment. And one of the things I noticed, that if I was just to stand in a relaxed position, my head usually drops a bit to the left side. But if somebody were to say that to me, and why are you leaning to the left, I would say, what do you mean? I'm looking straight forward. So you become a little bit unaware over time how some of these key postural alignments will drift away, because you're still able to do your day-to-day, and you're not really aware of what you're doing that will contribute to maybe, not for everybody, but maybe some problems down the line. So what happens in our bodies because of driving in a car, sitting in a sofa, sitting at a desk, is one of the key muscles that gets shortened is our hip flexor. So this muscle I shall step away, it goes over the top of the pelvis, hinging, if you like, to the torso, and comes down. So the hip flexor, the thighs. So when we are sat down in the chair or all of those positions, we're shortening this muscle. And when it's shortened, what will mean, and if we're not doing anything about it, it will mean that it's very difficult to get the pelvis to tip back when we want to stand up. So I will exaggerate, you'll end up shortening this muscle, the pelvis is pulled forward, and we kind of get this arching in the back, and also as well, we end up leaning forwards up here, up the head. And then that can, accelerate down the line. We're becoming older, that will then lead to some of this, you see, unfortunately, a lot of older people maybe bending over and walking, and that's because one of the contributing factors is the hip flexor shortening, tipping the pelvis forwards. And whilst we're younger and more able, we may not be aware of this tip forwards, and we'll just bring ourselves upright and we'll carry this curve in the lower back. And also as well, and we might end up, pressing the chest out, and that's a bit of a British thing, puff the chest up. But if we can, when we're aligning ourselves, we extend up. So by extending up, I'm lengthening the spine in the trunk of the body. I'm going to drop the chin slightly, so my gaze is a couple of meters in front. And as I do that action, I feel the spine and the neck lengthened, and then I'll bring the pelvis into what I would call a neutral position. And I know when I first started doing yoga, I think in the Pilates class as well, they talk about this neutral position. I think, what on earth are you talking about? I don't understand. Like, is my pelvis moving? I'm not sure. And it is one of those things that you kind of have to have a little bit of a play with. So you're standing upright and trying to get this pelvic movement. And as you're doing that, it might be that as I'm doing it, my belly's moving forwards, my back is coming in. So just trying to identify that and switch the muscles on to allow this pelvic movement. And it's something that you'll come to identify with over time. And one of the challenges is it's all very well me saying, okay, as I was saying a moment ago, standing upright, getting this nice upright spine. It's how do you maintain that doing your day-to-day? And you can't keep recorrecting yourself. What takes you out of being in a nice postural alignment are all of these shortened muscles. So you've got the hip flexors that tip the pelvis forwards, you've got the shortened hamstrings that want to pull it back, and then we've got the shoulders that we're either, when we're younger, we're fighting this shortened hip flexors by tipping the pelvis back. We might pull the shoulders back, and as you get older from that, maybe there's less focus on the shoulders, and we're starting to come forwards. So doing some kind of regular rounded exercise, yoga is great for it. There probably are other things as well that you can do to constantly keep working on challenging the flexibility in our hip flexors, our hamstrings, across the shoulders, will allow you to peel back the layers of the onion and allow you to get on top of being able to work towards having a good alignment, which will reduce your back pain. It will reduce a lot of other musculoskeletal issues as well if we've got this nice upright body. And the more you practice, the more you become aware of your own posture, and you'll think about it more, and because you think about it more, you'll think about it even more. And when you're out and about, you'll be thinking, how am I standing? Is my pelvis tipped? Am I dropping that chin? One of the things that I do, and again, I've mentioned it quite a few times, if I'm feeling tired, or if I'm just being a little bit lazy, especially if I'm driving, I'll be driving like this, and I'll notice my head rock back. And for me, my balanced position is here. I don't have to have too much effort to hold my head there. And I know I'm being exaggerating a bit, being a bit lazy with this. And we're having the chin down, it's only slightly, it's not right down towards the chest. Doing this especially when I first did it, felt really alien. So when you're doing this, it feels alien. It feels like you're having to use the muscles in the head and the neck to keep it there. And that's because when I'm lazy, I'm doing this and I'm shortening the muscles in the back of the neck. So it all just goes out of whack. And as you get older, if you don't do anything about it, you'll probably end up with back pain. You'll probably end up with shoulder pain. You'll struggle to do more of what you like to do day to day, whether that's just turning on the kettle in the kitchen or getting in and out of the car without too much effort. So I will just go through some, what I would class hopefully simple exercises for you to at least be aware of, and if you want to do them, you can. And the next best thing you can do is get along to a yoga class. And even if you don't have any back problems, be preemptive and get the body moving about in a balanced way to reduce the likelihood of some of these long-standing musculoskeletal issues that really are very difficult to fix once they start to deteriorate. And there isn't, like I said, yoga really helps to manage that. It helps to manage reducing the number of times you'll have a bad back, and you'll also speed up the recovery period afterwards. So have a look at these movements, and maybe there's some things that you can do at home. So there's a couple of exercises, well, actually there's loads of exercises we can do from a standing position, but there's a couple that I'll just go over in this session today. So we'll look at stretching the hamstrings and the calf muscles in the backs of the legs. And again, if they're shortened, they'll be wanting to tip the pelvis back. If the hip flexors are shortened, they'll be pulling it forward. And usually what happens is the upper body wants to come out of alignment, as in like leaning forwards. And like I said, when we're younger, we will go about correcting that by having the pelvis out of alignment and then bringing ourselves upright and getting this curve in the lower back. So if you've got a yoga mat, you don't need to have one. From here, we'll take a step back, nice big stride back with the right foot. in a position where your hips and chest are facing forwards. And then we'll place the hands on the hips, and then we're going to lead with the chest and come forwards. Hands can either stay on the hips or you can take them to the leg. And as you're coming forwards, hopefully you'll start to find a point where you're feeling some resistance down the back of this front leg, this left leg. If you struggle to keep it straight, try a slight bend, but we don't want to bend it too much so that you're not actually stretching those muscles. And if you can, you're staying here for a few breaths. You can always come up sooner if you need to. And then we'll come back up. We'll step the right foot forwards and then back with the left foot. Hips, chest, facing forwards again, hands on the hips, leading with the chest. Allow the head to hang. And again, hands can either stay on the hips or you can take them to the leg. And also as well, this is a stretch that you can do in front of a work surface. So it might be that you've got your hands on the kitchen work surface or the hands on a table in front of you just to balance. And when you're in this position, you're allowing the head to hang, focusing on your breathing. So you're aware of the in-breath, aware of the out-breath. And as you're breathing out, you're allowing your head to sink down, imagining your head sinking down. And then slowly coming back up, and we'll step that left foot forwards. So you can do that a couple of times on each side. You can do it shorter or longer, it's up to you. And whenever we're doing a yoga practice, we're looking at moving the spine in all the different directions available. So that might be a bit like what we just did there, a forward fold. And one of the other things that's happening when we're doing that forward fold is we're stretching the muscles in the back, the arms drawing down, creating stretch across the shoulder. We've also got a back bend. So from our standing position, we've got feet hip width. We draw the shoulder blade elbows towards each other, extend up, take the gaze up, and then leaning back. So this movement back might feel like you're hardly moving, so it might be a small movement for you. Come back upright, and shoulder blades elbows towards each other, extend up, take the gaze up, and leaning back. And then coming back up, allow your arms to come down. So we're getting some movement in the spine, going backwards, and by the hands by the side, drawing the shoulder blades in, you'll notice that stretch across the chest and the shoulder. So within our yoga practice, within each of the postures, we're always looking at what number of different either stretches, strengthening movements can we do within that posture. So we can also move the spine to the left and to the right and also stretch the side of the body. So we've got the feet hip width, interlace the fingers above the head, and then you stretch up and then come over to the right side. Coming back up, stretching up and over to the left side. And then back up. And we do it to the right, back up, and over to the left. Back to center, allow your arms to come down. So if you're right or left-handed, whichever side that is, what we're doing in the side of the body is we'll be shortening back that side of the body, because we're always strengthening, tensing more on this side that we'll either write with, that we might be in the garden shoveling with, that we might be cooking with. That the side that we lead with the more is gonna, you'll be stronger down one side, but that side, the muscles down that side of the body will be shorter. So you're kind of pulling over. And again, as you can see, if I'm more leaning to one side, again exaggerating, that's not going to be good for the spine over a long period of time. So that's a couple of things that we can do from standing position. There are more, but like I said, these little bite-sized things that you can do at home. So we're down on the mat this time. So the times that I do get a bad back and it's really difficult for me to move, the easiest thing for me to do, and people who've got bad backs watching this will probably understand, is to come to a hands and knees position. So you might have rolled out of the bed and come to all fours, or you might be on the couch. And so from my experience of struggling with back pain and speaking to other people as well, coming to an all fours positions is one of the easiest positions that we can come into, and we can do an awful lot of movement here to help work on the muscles that have caused the problem initially. And if you are having an exacerbation, I'll do some movements that will helpfully
reduce your exacerbation at that time and give you a little bit of movement that will allow you to get up and come to standing and do some of your day-to-day bits and pieces. So depending on where your back pain is, one of the options, one of the things we can do is cat-cow. So when I have a bad back, cat-cow is usually off the cards, but I'll demonstrate it anyway because our back pain is often very different. So again, it's getting movement through the spine. So we tipping the pelvis back arches, head drops, tipping the pelvis forward, taking the gaze forward. So we can continue this gentle movement from one position to the other. So again, as you can see from this movement, we're getting a nice ripple effect moving through the spine. We're increasing the range of movement. You know, if we do this on a regular basis, we'll maintain and increase the range of movement through the spine, stopping it from becoming stagnant. And then we'll come to a stop here. One of the movements that works really well for me to help, if I'm having a problem with my back, to reduce it or help me at least get going, is doing twist positions from all four. So there's a couple of options from that. So it can be anything from lifting up. So I'm lifting up my right hand, reach the right fingertips up, bring the right hand down, and then to the left. So that seems to, for me, get into where the tightness is, where that lower back area is become tight to protect itself. And occasionally when I'm doing this move from one side to the other, I hear a little click in the back, which a click in the back, if you aren't aware, is where gas is being released. So it's a good thing, you'll often feel better afterwards. So there's this option. Also as well, to allow me to come into it a little bit more and use my body weight to help me with it, I will keep my left knee down, raise my right arm up. So from this position, if you've got tightness in the shoulder and you struggle to lift the arm up, you can have the hand on or the right arm down the right side of the body, or behind the back. So if you're in this position, the other thing you can do if you're able is draw this right shoulder back, draw the top shoulder back. If you are able to get the arm up, and then from here, so my arm is pointing straight up, and I'm just going to see if I can allow the weight of the arm to come behind me. And the weight of the arm coming back increases the stretch across the chest and the shoulder, and also will challenge the movement in the spine, especially in the lower back. We'll return to an all fours position. So I'll do that on the other side. So I'm turning, straightening the left leg, left arm comes up, and again, left arm behind the back. If you really struggle to, you know, for some people, tightness in the shoulders means that, say, your left arm might only come to about here, and if you try and force it much further, then you'll be moving probably from the other shoulder. So the arm will stay here, but you'll bring the other shoulder back. So we can maybe take the arm behind the back and draw the left shoulder back. Again, if you're comfortable, have the arm up, allow the weight of the arm to come behind. And an action to, again, we can do with this is, so I'm allowing the arm to come behind, but I'm also going to press down harder through this right hand. And as I do that, it helps the chest open a little bit more. And again, it really increases and works on the stagnant movement or the locked movement in that lower back area. Come back to all fours. And then from here, we can do that lateral flexion in the spine that we did a moment ago when we were standing with the fingers interlaced. So I'm extending one leg, and then I've extended my right leg, toes on the mat, sliding over to the left, looking over the left shoulder. Because my right foot is out to the left and I'm looking over the shoulder, it's not intended that I'm able to see that right foot. If you do, it's fine. If you don't, it's fine. We're working on creating a stretch down the right side of the body, creating this movement in the spine. The other thing you can do from here is allow that right leg to drop down. So my right knee is on the outside of my left leg, and then I'm going to look over the shoulder again. And again, this is a movement that really helps me. And by having this leg here, it's almost like you're creating more of a lever, so you can get a little bit more out of the stretch. If you struggle to cross that leg over, it might be that it's next to, or you've got your foot over. So anything that you can manage to work towards getting that leg over. From here, we'll extend the left leg, left foot to the right, and look over the right shoulder. I'll bring my upper body back to centre, pop that left knee down, and again looking over right shoulder. Back to all fours. Another thing we can do with the movement as we go into the movement, especially if you are struggling with back pain, is that we can focus on our breathing. So I'll extend my leg, taking it over to the left. I'll breathe in here. As I breathe out, looking over the shoulder. So the breath will help you in the moment manage the pain. It will also increase the likelihood of you coming into the stretch a little bit more. So we're breathing out when we come into it, and then we'll come back, extend the left leg over to the right, breathe in, breathe out as you look, and then returning to an all fours position. And then maybe to finish off, we can take the knees wide toes towards each other, bum to heel, sliding the hands away, pressing through the hands to press the bum back. Inhale as we come up, and then breathe out as we come down. And we could go through this movement for a few rounds. And with all of this, if you are having some lower back pain, if you are having a bit of an exacerbation, you're adjusting the range of movement to make sure it's comfortable for you and you feel in control. So that might mean that you don't come as far forwards and you take a shorter range of movement forwards and back. Pausing next time we're upright or we're in an all fours position. From here, if you can, we're going to come up and we're going to bring this left foot forwards. Stretching the hip flexors can be a bit of a challenge. Actually, I'll switch legs just so you can see. So this is my left hip flexor, my left thigh, and I want to stretch that. And a way I can stretch that is by leaning back from here. One of the things you can do is if you want to start to feel some stretching here before we move, so maybe shuffling the right foot forwards and then moving the right leg forward so the knee is above the ankle. So as I come into this position, I'm starting to feel stretch here. You might not need to shuffle the foot forwards, you might come into this position straight away and start to feel some stretch so you can keep the right foot where it is. So from here, we've got a couple of options. We can take the hands behind, extend the upper body and then leaning back. So we're getting our back bend again from here, but we're also getting a stretch on this left hip flexor. Come back upright. Another way we can do this is raise the arms up. I'm going to take them above the camera view, but what I'm going to do above the head, which you won't be able to see, is take my left hand to my right wrist, reach up, and I'm leaning back. So I'm using that connection of the hand on the arm to help encourage my back bend, encourage this stretch here. Come back up, we'll switch legs. So I'm bringing that, shuffling that left foot forwards a bit, knee above the ankle, taking the hands behind, extend up, lean back. And then coming up, I'll raise the arms up again. This time I'm taking the right hand to my left wrist, extend up, lean back. Back up. Stretching the hip flexors is a bit of a challenge for a lot of us. If you're quite tight in the body anyway, when we come to stretch the hip flexors, a lot of the other positions that we could come into aren't accessible, or they're pretty uncomfortable to come into. But again, with that movement there, hopefully you can achieve that. If you're comfortable kneeling, another way we can do it is also leaning back. So there are some options, but I find personally that stretching the hip flexors becomes a bit more challenging. Another way of stretching the hip flexors, so if you're somebody you feel steady on your feet, maybe you're already doing some yoga or some practice, another thing that we can do is, so I'm going to lift up my left foot, take my left hand onto my left foot. The knee is pointing down, I'm drawing the heel in towards the buttock. And again, I'm starting to feel the stretch here. The other things that we can do to help with that is that, again, it might be that you're doing this
in the kitchen, hand on the counter, on the back of a chair, holding on to feel steady, and then drawing that heel in. And then we'll pop that right foot down. The other thing we can do is you can grab a strap or a belt and take it around that leg for you to help to bring that leg up, if you like, with your hand on the surface. So there's another hip flexor stretch to give you a different option. So thank you for watching. There will be more little tidbits coming out, but hopefully these are just some bite-sized things that you can do if you've got back pain, if you're struggling with back pain. And hopefully these are some movements that will be more accessible than doing something much more elaborate, but they will be, all of these movements and stretches have their places. So thank you all for watching. Comment, share, interact with me is absolutely fine. If you have any questions, let me know. Take care.